So if you're codependent and you've been wondering why you're doing what you're doing, why do we do this to ourselves day after day? And every time we say, yes, today is the day I set boundaries. Today is the day I conquer this. Today is the day that I am sticking up for myself. But yeah, no, of course I can totally, no. You know what? Tell you what, we'll take care of you today and then we'll take care of me tomorrow. It's good. Keep watching. I'm going to tell you why the hell we beat ourselves up for that. Or why the hell, basically we're playing the game of quit hitting yourself and we're doing it to ourselves. I'm going to tell you why. Thank you for watching. For those of you joining for the first time, my name is Chelsea and I am an intuitive healer. I help people locate, clear, identify the patterns that have been caused by fear and by trauma, and I help them transform them into peace and empowerment. So let's get started. What is codependency? If you haven't already checked it out, I do have another video on what happens when a codependent person finally finds a healthy relationship. And I realized I should probably explain a little bit about what codependency is. So, Merriam-Webster defines codependency as a psychological condition or a relationship in which a person is controlled or manipulated by another who is affected with a pathological condition, such as addiction to alcohol or heroin. That's the Webster Dictionary definition. It really doesn't cover a lot, other than if you are in a relationship with an addict. But there's so much more and there's so much broader, because that's all I thought it was at first when somebody called it out in me and said, Chels, have you ever heard of codependency? I said, well, that's when you're like addicted to, right? There is a little aspect of addiction, but it's not in the way you think. The kind of working definition that I've come to understand of codependency is it is attempting to manage the emotions of others in the hope or expectation that you will get your needs met, your own emotional needs. I'll repeat that. It's the managing of other people's emotions in the hope or attempt that you will then get your emotional needs met. And that comes usually very early on. For myself, and maybe for a lot of you, I realized that I wasn't good at sports. I wasn't good at math or technology. I was intelligent, but I didn't have a lot of social skills, so I couldn't be that fun friend. I couldn't be the cool friend. I definitely wasn't the pretty girl or the popular girl growing up. And I actually did get bullied quite often. And so what I learned early on for myself was I didn't have any of those traditionally valued gifts, but I could listen. I could comfort. I could be that friend that people could sit next to and have them cry on my shoulder. I am really good to this day at being there for people. So my little tiny child brain thought, okay, so if I can meet other people's emotional needs, I must have been a very smart child to be thinking in these terms, but the adult version of it was, if I can meet other people's needs, they'll like me, they'll love me, they'll meet my emotional needs, and they'll be friends with me. And as we grow older, that of course morphs and transforms and turns into all these little twisted kind of vines and patterns that we carry into our adulthood. And it turns into this big old subconscious cobweb mess. So I found out that I had a knack for being there for people. Now, that's not a bad thing. That makes you a beautiful person. If you have that knack, thank you. Because we need you right now. The world needs you right now. But here's where it gets a little tricky. Codependency is the dark side of that beautiful talent. It is almost borderline, and I'm going to probably get called out on this, but I don't think it's incorrect. It's a slight manipulation of the emotions of others. Because as codependent people, we try to manage how other people feel. Let me explain. If somebody is having an absolute meltdown or somebody is having kind of a rough day, we'll go out of our way. We'll deny our own boundaries. We'll deny our own emotional needs. We will deny our own health sometimes to make that person feel better. And there are a lot of times in life where that is absolutely a human necessity. But where it gets tricky is when we start doing it all the time. And all the time with our partners, all the time with our friends. When we become the vessel for people to just dump into, and they go off feeling great, and you're just sitting there going, well, I kind of had a crappy day too, but it's okay, let's talk about you. That's where it gets unhealthy. That's where it turns into codependency. It's trying to meet the needs of other people. And it's a really good defense against having to meet our own needs. That's the other kicker. There's a very big defense mechanism that we employ when we become codependent, and that is we don't have to look at our own shit. We can just take care of everybody else and say, no, I'm good. You know what? Tell you what, let's take care of you. Oh, you're having a bad day. Great, let's take care of you. And there is that moment of relief in our own head that we don't have to look at the shit we're going through. So that's the other thing, is we are not only consciously denying ourselves, we are not only consciously saying, don't worry about me, let's take care of you. We are subconsciously telling ourselves, you know what, I don't even want to look at this. I don't even want to do my own inner work. So it can be a very, very effective form of distraction. There's also and this sounds a little bit crazy, but if you really think about it, stay with me here. There's almost like a little high that comes from being codependent. And I think that's what keeps us doing it for years and years and years of our lives, is because there is actually, it's not as blunt as people pleasing, where people can look you in the eye and say, look, I know I'm a people pleaser. I don't like doing, but you know what? There's a little subtle high that you get whenever you can make somebody feel better. And that's what makes us human. And if that is your gift, if that is your talent, to be there emotionally and to hold space for others, there's that little tiny moment where we say, yes, I'm doing what I was here to do. Yes. And we get that little endorphin reward, right? It's almost like a gambling addiction. We just get that little pellet. We just get that little tiny jackpot. And that, it should feel good. It should feel satisfying anytime that you are with a loved one and you can be there emotionally for them. That is giving something to you. But when you're coming from an unhealthy place and your own cup isn't full and you're trying to constantly pour into somebody else, that high is going to go away real quick. But there is, for me especially, there was a big kick of saying, yeah, I did that. I was there for them. I made them feel better. And that made me feel so great for a good half an instant, until all of a sudden I looked in the mirror one day and realized I am run down. I can't, and they just keep wanting more and more and more from me, and I can't give it, which leads to the crash. And the crash comes in when we actually look in the mirror, or we look at the other person, and we realize that they have not been pouring into us. And a lot of narcissists will attract codependent people, and a lot of codependent people will attract narcissists, because it's the perfect, just never-ending cycle, right? As a codependent person, we want to give and give and give. As a narcissist, they want to take and take and take. And it just seems to work out, and it can work out for a good long time because the narcissist is getting what they want. The codependent is getting those little teeny tiny scraps of encouragement from the way that they seem to fulfill the narcissist. And then it becomes a challenge. At least it does for me. I love a good challenge. And I attracted narcissists for a long time because of it, because I actually did love that little high I was getting. But again, you do reach a crash. And that crash, if you think you're feeling it, if you want to know if you're feeling it, these are some of the kickers that you will feel when your energy finally runs out. Bitterness, resentfulness, exhaustion, and resignation. Bitterness and resentfulness. You will start to hate the person that you're with. You'll start to hate the person that you've become. Those are two big warning signs. Because that anger and that bitterness is trying to alert you to the fact that something's not right. It's trying to alert you to the fact that you are giving beyond your ability. Again, we should always, maybe not always, but in most cases, if we have the ability to be kind and caring, if we have the energy, if we have the stamina, if we're already full up, then yes, please be kind, be caring to others, hold space for others when they need it, but only if you have the capacity. And codependent people will happily give way beyond their capacity. It's like running up a massive emotional credit card bill for us. And that bitterness and that resentfulness means that the bill is coming due. And that is the emotional equivalent of an eviction notice. That's when you know it's time to get out or set boundaries. And the problem is, by this time, many people that we're with either were already used to us giving and giving and giving, or they've gotten used to it. And so drawing that boundary is going to be a challenge. Stick with it, you can. And if the people around you don't want to accept boundaries, maybe it's time to look at those relationships and maybe what those relationships were doing for you through the lens of codependency. Not saying you have to get out, not saying you have to head for the hills, but this is a sign that it's time to establish boundaries. Exhaustion. It's tiring. It's tiring. If you are waking up in the morning and you're already tired, big clue that you're giving beyond your strength. Big clue. If there is not a lot of external shit show going on, and it's a pretty good Tuesday and you're still waking up feeling tired, feeling depressed, feeling run down, again, draw your boundaries. Check if you've been going over them. Check your cup. Check your cup to make sure it's full. And if it's not, again, go back, see how you can fill up that cup. And finally, resignation. This is the heartbreaker. This is the one you see in people when they look like shells of their former self. This is what you see in friends. This might be what you see in the mirror. This might be what you hear in your head. The concept of, well, nobody else can do it, so I have to. Nobody else has the ability to hold this space, so I have to. And that's a heartbreaking place to be. It's also, again, it's that sneaky little ego that says nobody else can do what I do. And I don't mean to be down on anybody, because that's just how the ego thinks. We all have it. That's what keeps the ego around, is it's that sneaky little voice that kind of gives you a little encouragement, but kind of also tears you down at the same time, that says, nobody else can. Nobody else can. So I have to. Well, fuck. And that's where that awful cycle continues. And that's when that awful cycle seems to have taken over, is when Somebody is feeling bitter, resentful, tired, exhausted, depressed, but they're resigned to the concept that they have to continue this life forever and ever until infinity, because they're the only ones that can do it. And that, my love, is just not true. That is not true. If you are ever the only person who can do something for an extended period of time, if one of your friends needs a ride to the hospital one time and you're the only person who's free, yes, take them. I'm not talking about that. I don't think you think I am, but I have to clarify. If you are the only person who can do any one thing emotionally for the people around you for an extended period of time, that is not the truth. It's just not. If other people tell you that that is the truth, and they tell you you're the only one who can do this for me, you're the only one who can make me feel whole, complete, happy, joyful, check that relationship. Because that person should be the only person who can fulfill themselves. We should be the only person who can give ourselves true and lasting joy and fulfillment. It's relationships that teach us more about how to do that for others and how to find those little gaps in ourselves to work out. But really, you should be your own cupcake. All of our relationships should just be the sprinkles and the icing. But you should be whole and complete. So if anybody is telling you that you are the one that completes them, or that you are the only one who can do these emotional things for them, big emotional boundary check. They should not be putting that on you, and you should not be putting that on yourself, my love. So resignation is always changeable. Resignation ends the second you decide to end it. The second you decide to say, I can live a different way, resignation starts to fade. The second you say, I don't need this, I don't need to do this, I can enlist help, I can enlist boundaries, I can step away if I need to, I can walk away from this particular draining situation, a big chunk of resignation disappears. Might take a little bit to get it all the way gone, but a big chunk of resignation disappears when you decide to change it. So that's the good news. I hope this video helped you understand codependency a little bit better, understand why, even though you might be feeling pretty good about giving beyond what you can give at the moment, I hope it helped you understand the real emotional drawbacks of codependency. And I think I'm going to do a couple videos on this because it's a big topic. So if you'd like me to do that, please drop a comment. I would love to hear from you. Also, please click like or subscribe, preferably both, for this video, because I would love to keep hearing from you. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time.